Every single day, you interact with government regulations, and you probably don't even realize it. The food you eat, the car you drive, the internet you're using right now, all of it is shaped by laws and rules created by government agencies. And if you're planning to run a business someday, understanding these regulations could be the difference between success and a lawsuit. Today, we're breaking down government regulation in business law so it actually makes sense. Here's what we're covering today. We'll look at why government regulates business in the first place, how administrative agencies work, the major regulatory areas that affect businesses every day, how businesses can challenge regulations they think are unfair, and what deregulation means and why it matters. By the end of this video, you'll have a solid foundation in one of the most important and most misunderstood areas of business law. Let's get into it. Section 1. Why does the government regulate business? Here's a question that seems simple but goes deep. Why does the government get involved in business at all? Why not just let companies do whatever they want? The honest answer is, we tried that. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, there were almost no rules. Companies could pay workers almost nothing, ignore dangerous working conditions, and monopolize entire industries. Standard Oil controlled so much of the oil market that they could crush any competitor that dared to exist. That's when people started demanding change. Government regulation exists for several core reasons. First, to protect consumers. Without regulations, businesses could sell you unsafe products and face zero consequences. Second, to protect workers. Minimum wage laws, safety standards, and anti-discrimination rules all came from recognizing that without rules, workers get exploited. Third, to maintain fair competition. Regulations prevent monopolies and keep markets competitive, so small businesses actually have a chance. And fourth, to protect the public interest. Things like clean air, clean water, and financial stability that benefit everyone, not just shareholders. Regulation isn't about punishing businesses. It's about creating a level playing field where everyone follows the same rules. And here's something interesting. Businesses themselves sometimes benefit from regulation, because it stops their competitors from cutting corners. Speaking of who actually makes and enforces these rules, that brings us to something most people have never heard of. Section 2. How administrative agencies work. Most people think laws come from Congress or the President, and they do, but here's the twist. Congress and the President can't possibly manage every single detail of regulating an entire economy, so they created something called administrative agencies. Administrative agencies are government bodies with a very specific job. They're created by Congress to focus on a particular area, like the environment, workplace safety, or food and drugs. You've heard of these agencies even if you didn't know what they were. The FDA, Food and Drug Administration, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. These are all administrative agencies. Here's what makes them unique and honestly kind of powerful. Administrative agencies can do three things that most government bodies can't. They can create rules, called regulations, that have the same force as law. They can investigate businesses and enforce those rules. And they can even hold hearings, almost like a court, to resolve disputes. That means one agency can act like a lawmaker, a cop, and a judge all at once. Now you might be wondering, isn't that too much power for one organization? That's a fair concern, and it's one that courts have wrestled with for decades. And that question connects directly to how businesses actually deal with regulations in the real world. Section 3. Major regulatory areas in business. Let's talk about the actual areas where government regulation touches business every single day, because this is where things get very practical. The first major area is consumer protection. The Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, works to prevent deceptive advertising and unfair business practices. Ever seen a commercial make a claim that seemed too good to be true? The FTC is the agency that investigates that. Businesses can't legally lie to consumers in their marketing, and when they do, there are real consequences. The second major area is environmental regulation. The EPA sets standards for air and water quality and regulates how businesses can dispose of waste. If your business pollutes a river, you're not just causing environmental harm, you're breaking federal law. Environmental regulations have increased dramatically since the 1970s, and they continue to evolve. The third area is workplace regulation. OSHA requires businesses to maintain safe working conditions. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, enforces laws against discrimination based on race, gender, age, and other protected characteristics. These regulations affect every business with employees, which is essentially every business. The fourth area is financial regulation. After the 2008 financial crisis, most people learned very quickly how devastating unregulated financial markets can be. Agencies like the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, exist to make sure financial markets are transparent and fair. Securities laws require companies to disclose accurate financial information so investors can make informed decisions. Each of these areas has layers of rules and agencies behind them. But what happens when a business thinks a regulation is wrong, unfair, or was created without proper authority? That's where things get really interesting. Section 4. Challenging government regulations. Businesses don't always have to accept regulations lying down. There are legal ways to push back, and understanding them is an important part of business law. One major way is through judicial review. Courts have the power to review regulations and strike them down if they violate the Constitution or go beyond the authority that Congress gave to the agency. This is a crucial check on administrative power. Companies have successfully challenged regulations they believed were created without proper legal authority. Businesses can also participate in the rulemaking process itself. When an agency wants to create a new regulation, they typically publish a proposed rule and invite public comment. Businesses, industry groups, and anyone else can submit feedback. This is called notice and comment rulemaking, and it gives businesses a legitimate voice before rules are finalized. Understanding these processes means understanding that regulation isn't a one-way street. Businesses are participants in shaping the regulatory environment, not just passive recipients. And that connection between business and government brings us to our final topic. Section 5. Deregulation and why it matters. Deregulation is exactly what it sounds like: the process of reducing or eliminating government regulations in a particular industry. And it's been one of the most debated topics in economic policy for the past 50 years. The airline industry was heavily deregulated in 1978. Before that, the government controlled ticket prices and routes. After deregulation, competition exploded, prices dropped, and more people could afford to fly. The telecommunications industry saw similar effects when deregulation opened up the phone market to competition. But deregulation isn't always a success story. The 2008 financial crisis is frequently linked to deregulation in the banking and mortgage industries during the 1990s and 2000s. When oversight was reduced, risky behavior increased, and millions of people paid the price. The debate about regulation versus deregulation is ultimately about balance. How much government oversight creates a fair and safe marketplace without strangling innovation and growth? It's a question with no perfect answer, and it's one that businesses, lawmakers, and citizens keep wrestling with. Here's what you should take away. Government regulation shapes almost every aspect of how businesses operate. Administrative agencies have significant power. There are major regulatory areas every business owner needs to understand. Businesses have legitimate ways to challenge unfair rules. And the ongoing tension between regulation and deregulation will continue to define the business environment for years to come. If this video helped you understand government regulation in a new way, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need this content. Subscribe so you don't miss the next business law breakdown. And drop a comment below with a question you still have about government regulation. I read every single one, and it might just become the next video topic. See you in the next one.